Bonsoir French students, j'espère que tout va bien. I hope that all is going well. Welcome to video 6 of chapitre 3, and you'll see the topic of this video is quelques prépositions. That's what we see at the top of this slide. So in other words, some prepositions. Okay, prepositions, you can even see it from the way the word is spelled, what makes up this word, and it's the same in English. It's basically made up of two pieces, pre and position. Position is all about location, right? So prepositions are basically location words. They kind of tell us where something is in relation to us or in relation to something else. Pre means before in almost every English word you can think of. So that just means that these words generally come before the things they designate. In languages like Japanese, they have postpositions, which means they're also location words, but they come after the things that they relate to. So if you were to ever learn Japanese, that would be kind of a cool thing to observe. Or if you ever, are answering a quirky trivia question someday, maybe that question will come up. But you'll see here that there's quite a list of prepositions that we'll learn about, especially related to location. And I've always said, even for people who learn English, that prepositions are one of the trickiest categories of words to learn, just because they don't always follow extremely reliable or specific rules. Sometimes they follow their own rules. Just as an example, we might say in English, I'm still on the plane. Imagine that you had just landed at the airport and you're calling somebody to come and pick you up. I'm still on the plane. I'll be getting off the plane in a minute. You're not literally on the plane, because that would mean you were on top of the plane. You're actually in the plane, but you probably wouldn't say to somebody, I'm still in the plane. It would sound a little bit strange, even though logically that's the one that would make the most sense. So that's just one example of how prepositions don't always follow rules. But for now, we'll learn what the different prepositions are, some of the meanings, and the way that they can help you describe locations and what's going on around you. Okay, so the first example sentence we see here is J'habite derrière la bibliothèque. Derrière is the word for behind, and sometimes we even have borrowed this word into English to talk about a part of our body in kind of a funny way. So sometimes, we use words from other languages. We borrow words to be able to describe things in English, just like before a meal, we might say bon appétit, even though that's not really an English expression because we don't have something equivalent. Okay, the other example you see there is J'habite à côté de la bibliothèque. So I live next to the library. Okay, de is not used when there's not a noun after the preposition. So if you say J'habite à côté, it just means I live next door, I live next to you. Okay, so some of the other prepositions we see here, one would be sur, so on. It's kind of like if you think of that expression bien sûr, which means of course. It's almost like saying right on, well on, like you can sort of see the relationship there. Sous is under. If you've ever heard of a sous chef in a restaurant, okay, that's exactly what that means. It's the chef underneath the chef in charge, so sous chef. Okay, entre is between. Dans is in. Okay, so je suis dans la bibliothèque. I am inside the library. Okay, devant would be in front of. Derrière, as we already saw, is behind. I could just as easily say j'habite devant la bibliothèque. It means I live in front of the library. Or j'habite près de la bibliothèque. I live near the library or close to the library. Okay, we see another selection of prepositions here on the right side. So loin de is far from, and notice starting with près de, all of these have de that comes after the preposition. So it's it often means to or from. It's kind of has various translations depending on the expression. So, j'habite loin de la bibliothèque. Oh, I live far from the library. or j'habite à côté de la bibliothèque. And notice what de does in different cases. Right now we're talking about la bibliothèque, which is feminine. So de la is always going to be separated like that. But we'll see on the next slide when we talk about a masculine noun that de is going to change depending on what comes after it. J'habite à côté de la bibliothèque, j'habite à droite de ou à gauche de. So I live to the right of or to the left of the library. Or j'habite en face de la bibliothèque. So I live across from it. And finally, j'habite dans le coin de. I probably wouldn't want to say that I live in the corner of the library, though. It's possible, but the meaning is a little bit unusual. Okay, so going on to the next slide. Okay, so this goes into a little bit more detail with the preposition de, which can mean of, it can mean from, it can mean about, and even to sometimes. So it contracts basically. So if de combines with le, then you get du. So j'habite près du centre-ville. So remember this U is that French U where you might start out with E and then round your lips as much as possible until you get the U sound. So du, j'habite près du centre-ville. Okay, if I have de plus la, like la bibliothèque, la salle de cours est près de la bibliothèque. So in this case, de la stays separated when it comes before the feminine article la. Okay, if I have de plus L apostrophe, then it's going to be separated also. Mon appartement est près de l'université. It's close to the university. Okay, and finally, if I have de plus les, it's going to be combined to form des. Il n'y a pas de parking près des résidences. So there is no parking close to the residences or dormitories. Okay, so it's pretty simple. It's really just a matter of keeping in mind the different meanings of the different prepositions. So you might want to, create some flashcards for yourself. I'm sure that there are lots and lots of Quizlet quizzes out there with preposition flashcards. It would be a good way to practice and memorize these. And then finally, remembering the rules of how you combine de with different articles that come after it. So de plus le becomes du, de plus la becomes de la, de plus l'apostrophe becomes de le, and whatever comes after it, de plus les becomes des. Okay, so that's pretty much it for prepositions in chapitre 3. Moving on to our next video, we'll be looking at les meubles et les couleurs, so furniture and colors. Okay, so I wish you all a good night, bonne nuit, and à la prochaine. Until next time.